So I grew up in northeastern Alabama in a small community near Fort Payne. My father was a farmer. He farmed his whole life, and so the community we live in was a farming community. I had a fairly large family, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. The life we lived was sort of faith, family, and farming, and sort of in that order, but a great way to grow up. When I graduated from high school, I wound up going to school at the University of South, Swanee, Tennessee. Small school, about halfway between Chattanooga and Nashville, but a very good school. Went there, played football, majored in economics. But when I left there, I went straight to the University of Alabama. I attended the university for about a year and a half and got my MBA. You know, a lot of people ask you what your first job is, and growing up on a farm, first jobs start quite early. I like to say my first real job was with First National Bank of Birmingham. Did not know how long I would stay. Even though I thought it might be a short-term experience, 39 years later, I retired. You know, my career at Regions has been really across the organization. You know, I spent the very first part of my career working in operations and technology, never with an aspiration to become CEO. I'm not sure I believe that's a great aspiration for anyone to have. I just wanted to do a good job at whatever job I was assigned at the time. You know, the Lord had a plan, and I wound up becoming CEO of the company right in the middle of the financial crisis.
If you step back and reflect on Grayson's impact on the state of Alabama, Grayson took over Regions as CEO in the middle of the recession.
And he did not seek that job at all. He led that company to the promised land. With all due respect to Moses, he did it in less than 40 years. Grayson is just, he's a remarkable businessman.
Knowing Grayson, what I value is you always receive wise and valuable counsel. Grayson is thoughtful, particularly on tough decisions, and embedded in that, you see Grayson's heart.
So he's a business person, but he cares about the community. He cares about other people. If you need help in your life, you call Grayson Hall. You're going to get it.
Grayson's had a significant impact on me as a boss, as a mentor, and as a friend. And as a boss, he set a great example. I think his leadership style was very principled. He was a values-based leader. As I mentioned, he's patient, he's very thoughtful, he's humble, and yet went about doing his business always with a sense of humor. And so as a boss, he set a great example for all of us and for me during challenging times. If you can kind of maintain sort of a light environment and help people be comfortable, you don't get overly wound up about things. You can work through difficult issues, and he was great at that.
Yeah, I think anybody that is in business realizes that, that your business, whatever business you're in, can't outperform the community that it operates in. And I think in banking in particular, you figure out very fast that you can't be any more prosperous than the community that you're operating in. And in order for you to have a successful organization, you got to have a successful community. And so you find ways to give back. You find ways to give back while you're working in your career, but you also find ways to give back after you retire. And I think each of us should have a strong passion for the communities we live in, that we work in, and that we raise our families in. And I think that passion's driven me to try to find ways to, whether it's at the University of the South at Swanee, or whether it's University of Alabama, whether it's the churches we attend, I think it's an obligation. I think it should be a passion. My faith is my foundation, and I believe strongly that, that our measure at the end of the day is what we do for others. And I think it's important for us to give back, and give back in a strong way to the communities, not only with your financial resources, but with your time and with your talent. Well, I think being inducted in the Alabama Business Hall of Fame is a real honor. And But at the end of the day, it's a recognition of how well the team you worked with performed. I see this more as a recognition of Regions' success and the team at Regions, how they've succeeded. I'm glad to accept the honor on their behalf. I'm honored. I'm humbled by the recognition. But I also recognize that no one succeeds alone. I do hope that this allows an opportunity for people to recognize how well we did during some challenging times, but how strong we've become coming out of that, and I think it's a real testament to see, John Turner leading the organization today and how well the organization's doing today. I'd like to think that, I personally and the people that worked with me had a important part in making that possible. But you have to be proud of where the organization has come. One of the challenges that you face in your career and, having a family that's supportive. I married my high school sweetheart. We've been married over 40 years. Susan, she's been great. She's been there the whole time in a very supportive and thoughtful way. I would not have accomplished anything I've accomplished without her support, her partnership. And, I couldn't stress enough how important that is and how important that's been in my life.